Welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, GordoGambles, and welcome back to another full card breakdown. This time for UFC 299, we have one of the cards of the year, one of the greatest cards we've seen in a very, very long time, and one of those that is just stacked from top to bottom. I am absolutely pumped to break down this card, and as always, I'll be coming to you with not only DraftKings, but betting picks as well from top to bottom, the entire card. And you know what? On a week like this, when there are 14 fights loaded with name value, with some good fights, some close matchups, I didn't think I could do it alone. You know what? It doesn't do it justice just having me sitting here in front of my camera and talking. I had to bring along, you know what, a guy who's laughing at me behind, off stage right now, but a guy who's just going to help us break it down and give another angle to all this stuff, and a good friend of mine. So without further ado, from DailyFanRacing, my friend Ryan Larkin. How are you doing, my friend? And welcome to the Plays and Fade YouTube channel.
I'm good, man. It's been a couple years since I've been on. We did a couple NASCAR videos a couple years back, but yeah, I just can't get over how excited you are in every video you ever do, but it just cracks me up. Your positivity is infectious. So really excited to be on. I love talking UFC when I get a chance. So definitely excited for this one. It's one of the best cards we've seen in a very long time. Top to bottom, it's really, really good and intriguing. So really looking forward to it. Excited for some of the, I've been calling it a lot of gatekeeper fights. It might not be the right term, but a lot of older fighters, names, like RDA and stuff versus younger guys or up and comers and challengers. So really excited from that perspective. I think we're going to learn a lot about some key new guys at the top, seeing if they can break in the top 5. And at the top, we got some really good top 3, 4, 5 fights up there in the main card. So going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one for sure. And you know what? A few things I want to say. First of all, congrats. You're beating me in my own contest, the Ironman. You're up top there. I know you're looking to keep it forward. So, you know what? I know you're doing well. So a little bit of a hot streak for you. But the main thing here to put across is nothing's going to change from my usual breakdowns here. I'm giving out my full fight breakdown, my betting breakdown, and my DraftKings analysis. Larkin's going to do the same thing. And then we're also going to give out the cool bets, best bet section at the end. I got Larkin to throw me a couple as well. We'll cover all that stuff. Rainmakers, everything we usually do on typical video will be here live. Only difference is poor video quality. And if I mess up, I can't edit it out really, so let's see that going. Second thing, and most important thing, if you're looking for good visuals, you're not getting them here. I edited this together. You want to see this? Boom. Like this is what we're working with. Like a little preview. Like that's what we're going with here. So you guys can listen to us. If you have any questions, hit them in the comment section or the chat right here. We're happy to answer them. But let's get to it, man. A lot of stuff to cover. 14 fights. So let's get started with the very, very first fight of the night. We have ourselves Marina Moroz, 11-5 versus the 16-8 retiring Joanne Wood. And what is a very interesting first fight to get the night started. Marina Moroz is someone who has already beaten Joanne Wood as a huge underdog. I think it was her debut in that spot a long time ago. Now we have two fighters going in opposite directions. Marina Moroz, although she lost her last 2, was on a decent run there. And although there's the jokes to be made about her OnlyFans and the OnlyFans fade, she is someone who is pretty dynamic on the mat, who has fight-ending ability, and who can be a pretty physical fighter. She's also pretty tough, and I do think that she has more finish upside in this matchup. Joanne Wood is going to be the fighter with more experience. She's been at the top for a while, has fought the best of the best. But as I mentioned, she's retiring. This is her last fight, and she has been pretty poor recently, whether that be on the mat, being submitted before, having not the heart in it. And although she has won her last one, a close split against Luana Carolina, that is not very encouraging. All things aside, though, she is a very good active volume striker, and I do think that she has the capability to go out there and outstrike Marina Moroz if this fight stays at range. And I do think that from that perspective, she could be considered a live underdog potentially. But I don't really think so in this spot here. I think when it comes down to who has more finish upside, who has a better career trajectory at this point, it's Marina Moroz. And I don't think she's going to be a world beater by any means, but she has shown the ability to use her physicality to land takedowns before, has already submitted Joanne Wood. And we have seen Joanne Wood not only be at the end of her career, but also be really sloppy on the mat. And I do think Marina Moroz could take advantage of it. From that point of view, the pick is going to be Moroz, and I do think she wins by submission. And on DraftKings, she is the preferred play, only because I think she's just an uglier name up top. Not many people are going to want to play her. People are going to go towards Benoit Saint-Denis, the Sean O'Malley's, the Robert Despaigne. Not many people get to Moroz, and she's a good pivot play from that regard, but is only large tournament. In my single entry, I'm not really getting to Marina Moroz, but I do think she has more finish upside than certain other people that we'll talk about later, and I do think she's a good pivot contrarian play up top. We'll maybe talk about some bets otherwise, but there's my little ramble on it. Ryan, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it. I mean, to a T. The retirement aspect is never good either with Joanne Wood here. I never like hearing fighters are retiring. I never like hearing anything remotely close to that. For me, the DraftKings side of things, Moroz is a very, very sneaky contrarian play up top. You kind of mentioned it there. That's probably the thing I'm most interested in. I think Joanne Wood's going to probably have her normal mediocre fight at this point in her career. She's kind of been overwhelmed at times, it seems like, in fight, and that's where she's given up the submission to her opponents. And I think Rose has that ability to grab an arm, get her submitted, and get a decent score on a slate where a lot of ownership is going to be on fighters right around her. O'Malley's going to see a ton. Saint-Denis is going to see a ton up top. I think there's opportunity to be different here. So that's probably what interests me the most. I could also see this being one of those low-scoring women's MMA decisions, which, won't kick the card off very well. But I'm not really interested in Joanne Wood on this card. I think it's women's MMA, so you never know. It could be close. But I think Moroz is the one that's still in her quote-unquote prime or at that point in her career where she can put together a good fight camp, put together a good fight, and have the complete performance. Whereas it's felt like for like 3 years now that Joanne Wood's kind of checked out at times, at least in the middle of fights. It seems like she's doing all right and then just kind of drops it. So I'm not too comfortable with anything she's going to do. So I would lean Moroz to win here by sub. And so I think there is some upside, especially if she can do that early first round or maybe late second round where she racks up some points through the second round and then gets that sub late. So I think there's a path to her being a very good DK play this week.
Yeah, very good contrarian play up top. And one more, we're going to talk about the whole range as a whole, but I do think she has finished potential. Now, 2 questions for you. Number 1, would I pass grade 4 editing class, technology class? Because, that's my standard right now.
Yes, absolutely. I have my own shows, right? I do the NASCAR stuff in the F1 podcast. And dude, I struggle so much with this, with StreamYard and putting together shows. Like nothing I feel like ever looks good. So yeah, what you got going on here is great. We can see all the information. I don't even need my tablet. I pulled my tablet up and had everything good. I don't need it anymore because you did such a good job. So yeah, I love the way you set up the screen.
I just needed the validation. And number 2, is there any viability on an under here? I was very much looking at, I originally wanted to bet Marina Moroz by submission. I did think that line would be a bit off. It's now plus 230. Her submission line is plus 230. The end inside the under 2.5 rounds is plus 275. Isn't that a bit interesting there? It seems that all the finish upside is on Moroz, and I completely agree with that. Is there a value at plus 275? I do think it might end more than a 25% indication, Mantel.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Joanne Wood, I don't have it pulled up just now, but I mean, I think she's been submitted like 3 out of her last 5 fights or something like that. I don't trust her. I feel like at times she kind of wants to get out of fights. And yeah, 2 rear naked chokes in 2 of her last 3. And then you had that armbar to Jennifer Maia. Like, I don't trust her not to kind of give up in this fight. And so, yeah, I think there's value on that.
Sounds good. I'm happy to hear. All right, we're going to go on to the next fight of the night. We have the 18-2 Asu Almabaev versus the 12-4 CJ Vergara. 2 fighters who have had different career trajectories, right? Asu Almabaev's on the top of the world right now. He's had 1 UFC performance and a pretty dominant one that I was pretty lucky to see live in Nashville, whereas CJ Vergara has kind of been up and down. He has fought a weird, like the vast competition, right? All the way from CJ Vergara to Tatsuro Taira, up and down. He has had an interesting career that way. And I think that this is a battle between a unproven prospect who projects to have a very good career versus a guy in CJ Vergara who's kind of been like that middle of the pack, is never an easy fight, but isn't the best top tier talent. I think when it comes down to pure heart and determination, CJ Vergara's got great cardio, he's got good durability, and he will fight for your money. But skill for skill, I think Asu Almabaev is a better fighter here. Better takedown upside, better grappling. I think he has the ability to go out there, push a heavy pace, and put CJ Vergara in positions he doesn't want to be in. CJ Vergara has won fights in the UFC. He has reverse positions against certain people, but a lot of it was him capitalizing on his opponent's mistakes. I've seen nothing but good things from top position from Asu Almabaev for me to go out there and trust him, and I do think he wins this fight at a high clip. Now, a high enough clip for me to back him or parlay him at minus 450, not sure I'll get there yet, but more so I think he has potential upside on DraftKings. This is a slate that has a ton of fights you want to play, right? We'll talk about the Blaydes Almeida fight. We'll talk about Benoit Saint-Denis Poirier. We'll talk about all these fights, right? He's the most expensive fighter on the slate, and I'm interested to see how ownership will play out, to see if he's even viable up top, because I do think he has takedown upside. I do think he has the finish upside here, and I do think he's a guy who wins his fight at a very high clip. I don't know if I'll get there on the betting window at all, but he's certainly a high target GBP option. CJ Vergara for me is really tough to get to. He is the punt play of all punt plays because you know what? He will never give up on himself, and you have to give him that. I think he's a very tough individual at all times, but not a guy who I think rates out as the best let's say, minute winner or best finish threat in his own right. And I do think for that reason, hard to get to him. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, same thing. So me and you did a podcast for Brett. Brett was either sick or it might have been for the birth of his girl, but we did the Daily Fan MMA podcast together, and that was Almabaev's debut. And so I was forced into actually watching Almabaev's, fights before the UFC. And within like 5 minutes, I was in awe of this dude's entries and his top game. Like, it was clear that he had the skills to be in the UFC. And then he just went in there and smoked Osborne, in his first fight. That's a tough opponent to get in your first fight. Like, that's a legit, you're in the UFC. Go ahead.
You know what, though? They both debuted against Ode Osborne.
Right?
Yep.
One of them got a win and one didn't. So if we're doing MMA math here, which we're not, for me, I love everything that he offers in terms of wrestling, top game, everything on the ground is phenomenal. I still want to see more from him striking wise, but this is a fighter that I feel like against CJ Vergara might not have to even strike that much. Like, I feel like he's going to have a huge advantage in terms of wrestling, and his top game so good that it's not a situation where I think Vergara is going to get up very easily. I think there's going to be a lot of time on his back for Vergara, and I actually am a lot more okay with this line than pretty much anyone else is. Like, I feel that confident in Almabaev. I think he's an extremely good fighter. I think there's going to be very little that troubles him in this fight, and so I do really like him. Obviously, it's tough, like you said, minus 450 is tough, but man, I'm so confident in this guy with his skills on the ground that I think he kind of runs through Vergara here, and we're going to look back in hindsight and be like, yeah, he could have been minus 700 just with his skills. And I may be completely wrong, but this is one of the few people that I truly believe has a very, very, very good skill set, and so I think he'll implement it this time around.
All right, I like to hear that one. I think it's a very fun one. I think it may go overlooked, such a packed and hyped card like this, but I do think it's a good one. Moving forward here, I just want to say, guys, hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. We are live. Feel free to ask questions. I'll be answering them for sure, but also in the comment section. We had our boy Frank last week put in a whole summary. That made me laugh. A lot of good breakdowns before and after the fights, which is pretty cool. Feel free to comment anything down there for sure. We had a question here. What am I studying? You know what, man? I'm getting my doctorate of chiropractic, as well as getting a master's of sports science and rehabilitation. So I'm working on that. I got an exam tomorrow morning to do, which is fun. But you know what? It's studying hard and also balancing out some fights too. So I'm pretty lucky to be able to do this as well. Parlay Almabaev and Despaigne under 1.5. We will talk about that fight shortly. Those are two very solid legs. I will not lie. I'm happy to talk about the Despaigne fight too. Very solid parlay there if you are into that kind of thing. Speaking of, we have it says 0-0. I think he's 4-0, I believe. I want to make sure I get that right. Yep. We have the 4-0 Blaydes Despaigne versus the 15-7 Josh Parisian in what is a very intriguing matchup. This is where the positivity comes back, because I ain't got no better word than intriguing for this one. The 4-0 Blaydes Despaigne is a bronze medalist in Taekwondo, has the largest win span in UFC history, a 6'8 prospect, says 6'8 prospect from Cuba, who has just a ton of talent. Yes, he is getting up there in age, but still a guy who I'm going to consider a prospect because he wants to be marketed by the UFC, and he is a very, very solid guy with a ton of potential. And that if you want to go watch this fight's tape, go ahead. It's going to take you 4 minutes, right? One fight went out there, went to that 4th minute, but the other 3 fights he's had lasted combined 20 seconds, including his last one, a 4-second knockout. This guy is a true power threat. He's a true Taekwondo specialist and is going to be a very big problem for anyone who can go out there. The problem we have here is we haven't seen anything from him. 4 minutes of fight tape, 3 of those fights ending 20 seconds. Like, we do not know what this guy's like when he's extended. We do not know what this guy's like off his back. Although he's a phenomenal world-class striker, we haven't seen him tested too much. So there are a lot of questions to be answered. The question, though, is Josh Parisian the type of guy to take advantage of that? Is Josh Parisian the guy that they brought in to be like, yeah, let's get Josh Parisian a bronze medalist win here. Let's go. Let's show him what MMA really is. No, like, Josh Parisian is truly bottom of the barrel UFC level. I don't think that he has had the best career. I think that a lot of these fights he's been dominated. I do think it's a set of a spot for Despaigne to go out there and have success. I do think he is a more marketable guy. He has a ton of power, and this fight could very well be over in 30 seconds. The question is, do we want to go out there and parlay him at minus 400 with all the questions we have about him, with all the unanswered, skill set? We don't know his ground game. We don't know his cardio. There are a lot of questions to be answered, and for that reason, it is not a fight I want to get too heavily involved in the betting market. However, DraftKings wise, Despaigne's getting a lot of attention up top. He's going to be a pretty popular option, and I have to agree just because he has quick win bonus. Genuinely, the guy has had 3 fights end under 20 seconds, like 3 fights end under 7 seconds, I believe. The guy's extremely explosive. He has that power, and he will have a huge height, reach, and striking advantage over a guy in Josh Parisian who was rocked by Boudet before he was sub there, who has a lot of flaws. So this fight, one that has my attention. It is very juiced towards the under, and I tend to agree. I think Despaigne is a great GBP option because he has, like I said, quick win bonus, round 1 equity, knockdown equity. The risk is he should be a popular option, and maybe you'd rather go have a pivot with someone who is lower owned. However, still, if I want to target, pick as Despaigne, and I do think he could make it look very, very easy. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this one's very interesting. This dude has no experience. Like, I don't care if he has 4 fights. This is 0 fight experience, right? And he's fought, every person he's fought, I think, has a 0-0 record when he took him on. He wasn't fighting anyone who had any experience themselves. So his MMA experience is what concerns me the most. And while I'm going to be petrified that he is not good at all and gets taken down, the upside here is that he lands 1 punch and scores 125 points on the slate, right? So you have to chase that from a DK perspective, but the field's also going to be chasing that. I think it's going to be a pretty heavily owned play here. I don't think that's going to surprise anyone. This is kind of what comes to mind when it's Moroz as a pivot, because you're like, okay, if this guy doesn't get the quick win bonus, maybe he's only landing 10 strikes or something. Maybe he doesn't get a knockdown when he gets a KO or something. Maybe he's only scoring 100 points in a first round finish if he's not getting that quick win bonus. We know heavyweights sometimes don't throw a lot of volume. And then what if he just gets taken down because he has 0 true MMA grappling experience and he doesn't have any takedown defense to prevent anything? That at this point, this is such a scary fight to play the other side, but I think there's a lot of reasons why you should throw a little look towards Parisian as a dart to be different, to save salary, but to be very different with a guy who could potentially score 1 takedown and then submit a completely inexperienced and untrained fighter on the ground. So obviously, I think we're all on the quick win bonus upside of Despaigne, but man, Parisian could be very sneaky. And I tend to shy away from completely inexperienced fighters in situations like this, because this isn't like a jiu-jitsu guy who's now coming over where I'm like, okay, well, he's not going to get subbed. The biggest threat's a KO. Maybe he can, avoid it, whatnot. This is like, he may have 0 ground game whatsoever, which we see a lot from heavyweights. And if that's the case, it could be tricky here. I'm kind of surprised they didn't bring Chase Sherman in to face this dude, because Chase Sherman would have just sat there and put his chin in the air and say, here, knock me out.
Well, Sherman just got a bare knuckle fighting win. Like, come on, put some respect.
Oh, shit, did he?
He did?
Nice. Cool. Well, good for him. I always enjoyed watching him, so it wasn't a big deal. But, I mean, Parisian's probably the next best thing to Chase Sherman for the UFC to put this guy up against, if we're being honest. So I do think we see a KO here. I do think Parisian goes down pretty quickly. I just wonder if we can be different and pivot away from this fight, because I expect ownership to be really high. And I kind of am okay maybe getting beat by it on this card if that means I'm not playing 40% Despaigne,
Yeah, well, here's the thing. All right, I'm making no comparison at all. I truly think Despaigne wins this fight, but yet there are so many questions to be answered. He's not going to be like an Alex Pereira. But when Alex Pereira made his debut, he was an untested fighter who was submitted on the regional scene, a guy who we knew he's a great kickboxer, but had a lot of questions. And he was going against a guy in Andreas Michailidis who wasn't that good, but who still had a potential ground game. You know what happened in that fight? Michailidis took him down round 1, and then Pereira knocked him out round 2. Looked dominant, had his reign at the top. But in that fight, Alex Pereira scored 87.3 points against Michailidis. If Despaigne loses round 1 and then gets that round 2 knockout at 9.3K is not optimal. He needs that first round win bonus. So to me, it could be one of those spots where, yes, he looks like an amazing favorite, but he needs to check off all these boxes. Round 1 KO, have all these things happen. I do think he does it. I do think he wins. I do think he's a phenomenal play. However, there are some risks and some caution on the DraftKings side of things.
Yeah.
All right. Moving forward. And yes, we're going to go a bit over time this week. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you there. What I envision that he should do is when Francis Ngannou fought Rosenstruck, whatever. I've never been able to pronounce his name. And Ngannou just blitzed him and just said, I'm knocking you out in 10 seconds. That's what this guy should do. He shouldn't waste any time. But yeah, it's a fun one. It's going to be so important to this card for sure.
Oh, for sure. It's going to be, it'll be interesting to see how our night plays out just off the third fight of the night. But as I was going to say, we're going to go a bit over time. So I'll make sure to timestamp this down below, be able to edit through all that stuff. But no, we're all good. I'm happy to have you here. Let's keep going. Next fight up, we have the 17-9 Ian Cutelaba versus the 17-5 Felipe Lins. And what is to me, one of the most important fights in the DraftKings slate. Like, I'm going to put it out there. I think this fight is being incredibly slept on. I think a lot of people are overlooking it, but based off of the fight style of Ian Cutelaba alone, this fight is one you have to look at for DraftKings. It is one where you're either going to take a stand against or for it, and I do think it's going to come and make or break a lot of lineups. Ian Cutelaba is one of these guys who is a round one or bust type of guy, extremely explosive early on, a ton of power, a pretty solid good round game with a lot of wrestling upside, but after that round one, he fades. Not only that, his chin and IQ are extremely subpar, to put it lightly, right? But he has that round one success. He has the opportunity to go out there and win fights. And you know what? His last one, round one win over Tanner Boser, scored 107. Before that, 3-round decision win over Devin Clark, 127 points. His last 3 wins, he scored 107, 127, 118. Phenomenal DraftKings score. He's someone you definitely have to look at, but extremely untrustworthy. Felipe wins. Former PFL winner, a guy who started at heavyweight, did not do that good, got knocked out by Tanner Boser. So we're doing MMA math. There you go. But guy's had a bit of a career resurgence, has done a bit better recently, and a guy who has been a bit more trustworthy. Back-to-back wins over Grisham, St. Preux, and Prochnow. Not the best level of competition, but has shown he can go a full 15, has shown a competent ground game and some competent striking from range. To me, the fight's pretty simple. Ian Cutelaba is going to go out there, have a round one success, and either finish Lin the same way Tanner Boser did, or go out there and fade down the stretch. I think Ian Cutelaba's ceiling and round one upside in his matchup make him a very, very, let's say, enjoyable option for sure on DraftKings, and he is someone I'm definitely looking forward to that mid-range. One of my favorite GPP targets. I do love Ian Cutelaba this week, but it's a huge risk, and I completely understand. I'm going to take a stand on him. I do think he wins. I do think he has finish upside and that KO power as well as a solid ground game. I do think he's able to get a finish, which will score great. However, a ton of risk on one of the most untrustworthy fighters in the UFC. How about you, Ryan? Are you taking the risk with me on Ian Cutelaba, or are you doing a smart thing?
All in on Ian Cutelaba today.
You are? Okay.
Yeah. I'm honestly surprised. I just watched your Pub Sports radio show, and I was messaging you during it, see if I can get you to laugh a little bit. But I was surprised to hear what you guys had to say about this one. Honestly, to me, when I looked at this one, I thought Ian Cutelaba was like the best play on the slate. First off, 8,400 is the value of the century here with a guy that can score 120 points at any given fight. You know, the Khalil Roundtree fight was really, really strong back in the day. That showed his potential against a good quality opponent. We know he can string together a ton of takedowns, which really boosts up his score. And the output is unbelievable. And this is really why I like him so much, is Felipe Lins has no output. This is not a guy that's going to go out there and match Cutelaba for anything. He's got to weather a storm and hope that Cutelaba gasses. Yeah, it's possible that he gasses, but I don't see Lins like grabbing a submission here or something like some of the other guys that Cutelaba fought. I think it's really like in the third round, does Cutelaba just completely gas and then Lins kind of finishes him late. I think Cutelaba can win this by decision. I think he can win this at any point. This feels like a guy that's going to put up 120 points at 8.4K, and Lins is not going to offer much as a partner. I think he's going to get bull rushed here. Lins is not going to throw much. He's literally dependent on a guy gassing, and I'm never playing that with Lins because even if Cutelaba does gas and Lins gets a win, I think he's going to score like 75 and not really do anything here. So I'm all over Cutelaba. I think he smashes through 100, and I think he's going to end up as the best play on the slate.
I like that. Both taking a stand on a GPP play on Ian Cutelaba. Let me reiterate, not max betting him here. I understand his risk, but when it comes to upside, when it comes to a guy who has the opportunity to go out there and break a slate, he's one of the guys around on upside. I love that play.
That's what I love talking about DraftKings, because I can be like, yeah, I love Cutelaba and not worry about like a head-to-head bet or anything. Like, I'm just worried about that DraftKings upside in tournaments. And I think Cutelaba has given us one of the best positions we've seen in a while. I mean, really, all his wins are over 100 points, are all over 107. Yes, he loses a lot, but like, dude, Johnny Walker, yeah, Johnny Walker subbed him. Okay. Like that, Johnny Walker has that type of sub game, right? And so Johnny Walker span, even the draw against Jacoby, like he scored 89 in a freaking draw. Like this dude has so much upside, and losing to Ankalaev's they're fine losses. I get it. You're not that level, but I feel like he's got so much potential here, and I want to hammer that.
I like that. All right, I'm glad we agree with that one. Moving on, we have another pivotal fight, a pivotal fight between the Michal battle of this card here. We have the 29-11 Michel Pereira versus the 19-6 Mikhail Oleksiejczuk in what is one of the toughest fights for me to call, because I do think this is a very, very tough matchup between two talented guys, but two guys are bringing different styles. I've always said, and honestly, he's been showing a bit recently, Michel Pereira has the skill set to contend, to be a top-level fighter. Earlier in his career, he was messing around too much, doing backflips. I love watching that. He's one of my favorite fighters to watch because of that. But he has a truly solid skill set, and I think that he has honed in on it recently and had the ability to fight better because of it. Mikhail Oleksiejczuk is the complete opposite. Whereas we don't know what we're getting from Michel Pereira day in, day out, we know what we're getting from Oleksiejczuk, and that is a forward pressure, incredible power, incredible boxing, head-body combinations, and guy named Oleksiejczuk, a very tough guy, will put a beating on you in the feet, and will continue to walk forward. Good cardio, good durability up there. I really like his offensive output. He doesn't have the best ground game. He can be taken down, and that has been a red flag for him. And that's kind of where I'm having struggles with this fight. Because Pereira does have a ground game. He just never uses it. You can never trust him to go out there and land takedowns at a high clip. And for that reason, it's hard to pick him and back him at a high clip, because historically, what we've seen from Oleksiejczuk is his ability to push forward, be an offensive-minded fighter for 3 rounds, be on the front foot. Whereas we've seen from Pereira the opportunity for him to slow down in 3 rounds, right, when he's put on the back foot. So it seems like there is a recipe for success for Oleksiejczuk to be the forward pressure fighter and have opportunities to contend that way. However, although I think Oleksiejczuk is an incredibly live underdog this week, I will be siding with Michel Pereira. I do think he has more tools to get it done, whether it be better in and out movement, more weapons on the feet, as well as potential takedown upside. And all those things put together make me think he has more paths. I do think it's a toss-up, though. I do not discredit anybody on Oleksiejczuk's side. And DraftKings-wise, I'll be playing both. I actually might even prefer the Oleksiejczuk side on DraftKings at 7.5K. His path to victory score is way better. Walking forward, knockout upside, and incredible pace. We have seen him go out there and score 117, 105, 124, 112 in his last 4 wins. And for that reason, he's incredible play, especially at that price tag. Now, there's always a concern of the ground game. There's always the concerns of his, let's say, his one-dimensional approach to the game. But still, it's going to take a world-class performance from Pereira to beat him. For that reason, I think both guys are live. Prefer the dog on DraftKings, but the pick will be Michel Pereira for having more paths. I see you shaking your head. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I don't have a good feel either way. I'm not, not really strong-minded either way on this one. I think from DraftKings perspective, I'm not really going to want any Pereira, and maybe that's what thanks, Brett. Maybe that's where I should be is maybe thinking Pereira is going to be low on here. But aside from that quick Andre Petroski finish, he's biggest score is basically 90 points here. He did that against Nico Price where he had 3 takedowns. I think this is actually a spot where he should consider this like a Nico Price type fight. He should look at this as a good striker, someone he should get to the ground. I agree with you. I don't think he'll do that at a high rate. And so I do think he'll look to kind of win this on the feet, counter a little bit. I don't know if that's the best game plan, but I don't really want him on DraftKings. And on the other side, I can't even pronounce it, let alone spell it. But Oleksiejczuk, I think, is the best option here for DraftKings just because of the price tag. But he's one of my least favorite in this range just because I also feel like his upside isn't that great. I don't think he gets a KO in this fight. I think Pereira is too durable for that. And so for this one, I'm going to be pretty low across the board.
Okay. I don't mind the stance there. I think it's a pretty fun fight in general. I think it's one that, could bring fireworks. Should be a very entertaining one, no matter who's winning, right? If Oleksiejczuk winning, it's going to be him on the front foot, landing incredible boxing combination that's fun to watch. Whereas Pereira's winning, it could come with 2, 3, 4 backflips. Like, come on, that's fun to watch, right? It's UFC 299. So
where's Christian Conley when you need him?
Exactly. Canadian legend, right? So
Dude,
fun fight for sure. Hey, Canadian MMA got a win last week with Alman Zahabi. All right. That is a 100% win rate in the last week and a half. So we'll take that. All right, guys, let's keep it moving forward. Appreciate everybody hanging out here with us. I see a lot of love here, so appreciate it. What's up, Guru? What's up, Easy? Very interesting fight indeed. Frank saying it's a fun card. What Pereira could gas as well. I completely agree there. Brett tuning in. Shout out to Brett. Who's texting right now? This is an important thing we got going on here. I got to make sure these are muted. But no, shout out to Brett. He just signed an incredible deal there with ETR. I'll be filming that tomorrow, so be sure to check out established to run the MMA side of things. Shout out to Brett. Much love to you. He's spoiling my picks for that card. You know, I got to bring the optimism there as Moroz as well, but we'll allow it. Fake fan for Ryan not be able to spell Oleksiejczuk. So I don't know. All right. Let's move on here. Next fight up, we have, I'm excited about this one. 11-2, Kyler Phillips versus the 20-8 Pedro Munhoz. Ryan just said he was catching me on Pub Sports Radio. I called him Kyler Murray for some reason. I hope it's not Kyler Murray in there. Whatever. Kyler Phillips, 11-2. Also saw him fight at Nashville. Very fun fighter, very dynamic. A lot of spinning attacks. No backflips like Michel Pereira, but a very fun striker to watch. I think he's a ton of power in his hands, good volume, decent ground game shall it go there, and an overall really well-rounded fighter. He did pop for some steroids. Who cares? USADA's not here anymore. Maybe that's why he's back.
I think everyone's on steroids now. Like, I think we just need to accept that.
Hey, either way, man, he's a very fun fighter to watch, and he does bring the action every time. He's facing UFC vet here, 37-year-old Pedro Munhoz, a very, very fun one. Sorry, I got distracted. Brett's doing what my girlfriend does, closing his. Okay, no, all right. I'm just kidding.
Excuse me? You want to say that again?
No, Pedro Munhoz is a guy who has been very consistently at the top, has never been knocked out, a very solid fighter all times, wins over Gutierrez recently. He didn't lose to Sean O'Malley, the current champ, so there's all that fun stuff to say. But no, very solid, consistent fighter, very powerful hands, good guillotine, can finish the fight at every moment, but can be out volume, can be worked down the stretch, and typically when he's losing, it has been by decision. Now, this is a very interesting fight for me. I think overall the better mixed martial artist skill for skill is Kyler Phillips, but I don't think this line is justifiable at this price tag, minus 240, minus 230 from a guy in Kyler Phillips here. A guy who, although is, like I said, probably a better fighter, skill for skill, has not fought as good a level of competition. I don't think is going to have much grappling success here, and is really a guy who we have seen fade down the stretch. Pedro Munhoz is going to be a consistent threat. He's going to throw with fight any intention, great leg kicks, has the ability to make reads as the fight goes on, and has a pretty nasty guillotine if Kyler Phillips does go for that finish. All this to say is I do not think Pedro Munhoz should be a 2-1 underdog, especially considering we've never seen him knocked out. You're going to have to beat a decision. You have to beat Pedro Munhoz over all 15 minutes. And although plausible for Phillips, I don't think it happens at a minus 240 indication. For that reason, I kind of like the dog shot here in Munhoz. I do think it's an interesting one where I'm potentially looking at betting it as well. Sorry, that's a lie. I have bet it already. And I do think that he is someone who can contend. DraftKings wise, though, although I think I'm doubling down on it. Kyler Phillips at 9.1K does not really please me too well. Let's put it that way. Kyler Phillips is a guy who typically needs that volume, needs a finish, and Pedro Munhoz doesn't really offer many points against him. Munhoz is really hard to take down and has never been finished before, and it is a guy with, if you're not getting finishes and you're not really getting takedown upside, you're relying on volume over 15 minutes, and I don't think he can outscore a Saint-Denis and O'Malley, a Despaigne off the Kyler Phillips train at 9.1K. I'd much rather have a Munhoz. He is a safer play for me this week. I don't think he has that same upside as the people around him, but we've never seen him score less than 30 points. He scores 40 points in a lot of these decisions. Scored 66. I guess that was a 5-rounder against Edgar, but there are 45 points in a loss against Vera, 40 in a loss against Cruz, 42 in a loss against Aljamain. Incredibly safe fighter. I prefer him on this matchup. I'm taking the dog shot here. Do you think I'm crazy for that, or what are your thoughts on this matchup?
No. So I think I was looking for the message. I couldn't find it. I don't know what happened, but I messaged you earlier in the week. I was like, how the hell is Pedro Munhoz plus 215? Obviously, it's dropped down to plus 185 here, but that made no sense to me. This is a lot closer to a pick and fight, in my opinion. This is just simply because Pedro Munhoz isn't going to allow Kyler Murray to really get too far away. I think it's going to be relatively close. I took the same stand when he fought Chris Gutierrez. I was like, this shouldn't be this way. He should be the favorite here. And then he went out there and won that fight. This is when, in the beginning, when I said there's a lot of gatekeeper fights in this one, this is a key one. And one that I really stood out to me is that, like, Pedro Munhoz is the gatekeeper here. And Kyler Phillips has to go up and beat this level of opponent, which I don't think he's ever fought before. He's got, the Song Yadong fight was obviously a good one, but I think Pedro Munhoz is really, really sound all around, technical, smart. This is going to be a tough win to get. I think it's going to be a split decision type deal where whoever wins. For that reason, I want no Kyler Phillips or Kyler Murray, whichever one you got. I think that's the easiest fade we've seen in a very long time. Phillips basically only scores about 90 points even in his wins. 9.1K, I don't think he's paying that off. Munhoz, like you said, the floor's there, scores 30 or 40 every single fight. I'm going to play him in cash. I think most people will or should. I think there's a lot of win equity here, which helps me make that decision as well. So I do like the Munhoz side of this fight. I think he's probably the most alive, if not the second most alive fighter, down below about 7-4 to win. And so it's someone I do want a decent amount of this week on DraftKings.
I like that breakdown. We're agreeing a lot more than we usually do, so this is interesting for sure. Let's see if that keeps.
Wait till we get to Macy Barber.
Oh, well, I was going to say we're there next. We're there in a couple. So first off, we have to talk about the 23-2 Mateusz Gamrot versus the 32-15 Rafael dos Santos. RDA, let's call him that. And what is the second biggest favorite on the entire card? And you know what? You give me this matchup a couple of years ago, it'd be a different story. But at this point in your career, you have a guy trending towards the top here, Mateusz Gamrot, who has been a very persistent threat. Great takedowns, solid combinations, amazing cardio, and really just a very athletic fighter. RDA is a guy who's always going to be the top. And truth be told, when I first saw this line, I was like, wow, that's pretty wide for a guy who's as well-rounded, as talented, and RDA in this spot here. But truth be told is it's hard for me to just see a way that RDA can go out there and have success. I don't think he has the better cardio here. I don't think he's the better physical fighter of the two. And I do think his Gamrot going to be going out there implementing takedowns. We just saw Vicente Luque go out there and just bully Dos Santos. And I know it's a larger weight class. I'm completely aware of that. But Gamrot is a guy who's going to be very persistent in the spot. He's going to be able to go forward, land takedowns at will. And I do think he's the more active physical fighter of the two. Level of competition, yeah, RDA is there. He's been at the top. And he is a fighter who I don't think should be plus 300 against really almost anybody. But getting up there in age, this is a tough stylistic matchup for him. And I'm going to side with Mateusz Gamrot side of things. Betting wise, can't really get there. There are better parlay pieces. I think if you really want to go towards that, but truth be told, not my favorite fight in the world to bet. DraftKings wise, though, I think this is another pivot play. I think when we look at the top range, Despaigne gonna have a lot of ownership. O'Malley is gonna have a lot of ownership, and Almabaev is gonna be that pay up option as the Kazakhstan threat who scored 106 last time. Gamrot's going to be a bit sneaky. You know, people know RDA. People know him as a household name. And Gamrot last time hasn't really scored the highest, right? 84 against Fiziev, 86 against Turner, right? I think in this matchup here, he has takedown upside. I think he has, multiple takedown upside. The ability to go out there and land. He does shoot takedowns at a very high rate. And I do think he could potentially have a lot higher ceiling than people may expect. If he's going to project to come in under-owned, if he is going to have the ability to go out there and land takedowns at will, the same way Vicente Luque really did, I do think he's a live option. He's more contrarian play. I think there are better options around him in like single entry and cash, all that kind of stuff. But I think Gamrot wins a lot of time. I do think he has a GBP upside and considering his contrarian leverage type of play, but it is a pretty fun fight. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I'm a huge Gamrot fan. Like this is one of those guys kind of like Almabaev where I saw him early. I was like, yes, this dude's got a lot of tools here that's going to be, help him be successful. My two concerns here that are going to probably keep me off of him a lot on DraftKings is one, he doesn't throw out a lot of volume, not a lot of strikes thrown. RDA is not a guy you get out of there quick. He's not a guy you load up and score a lot on unless it's a 5-rounder. And in 3 rounds, I'm having a hard time seeing Gamrot score a ton. The path to that happening is that RDA does just enough to be able to get off his butt every time Gamrot puts him on it. And then Gamrot puts him right back down there on the ground. So he's just stringing takedowns together and he's getting 3, 4, 5 in a round or something like that, where he's just racking up takedowns. For me, what you mentioned about RDA at 170, where he was fighting up weight class and then struggled with that. He's always struggled with that weight issue. I never understood why he fought at 170. He always had to end up fighting the best wrestlers too. He fought Covington. He fought Usman. He got his ass handed to him, in the grappling exchanges there. Luque did it to him as well. Michael Chiesa did it to him as well. So I never liked him at 170. At 155 is his home. I think he'll be similar strength-wise here with Gamrot, and I think he'll be able to defend a lot. I can see him kind of stalling up against the cage like RDA has been known to do to kind of limit Gamrot's upside. Because Gamrot doesn't throw a lot of strikes, I think RDA's in this. I think he's live at 6.8K. I think he's going to be – it's a decision, in my opinion. So I think he's going to be able to score a decent floor. And then I do think he can kind of sneak out a win here if Gamrot just doesn't land enough. And then lastly, the other thing, Galen Turner fight, I did not like what I saw from Gamrot late in that fight. I thought he did gas. I thought he struggled, and then he got clipped, and then he just started spamming takedowns, which he didn't land because he wasn't hiding behind any strikes. He wasn't doing anything. He was just spamming takedowns, and Turner was like, nah, you're not getting any on me. So I thought he could have lost that fight. I thought he should have lost the Sarukian fight. I think Gamrot's kind of been lucky to get some of the wins he's got. And, every time you see a win next to his name, it helps boost that mindset. I'm a big fan of his. This spot kind of worries me.
Sure.
And on DraftKings, I definitely don't want to touch him.
Which makes sense. Like I bet Tarzukian against Gamrot. I thought Tarzukian won. Maybe I was biased by the bet. Who knows? But there have been some spots where I haven't trusted him. And that's kind of why I think that people may be off of him this week. I think people are going to think just like that, right? The bigger pay-per-views like this attract the more casual fan. Not saying you are, by the way, you know that. But like people are going to see, I know, but people are going to see a guy in RDA, and people who have watched sport for a while be like, oh my God, a former champion is this big of an underdog against a guy who has scored, I don't know, 84 points, 86 points, lost to Beneil Dariush. Like, I think he's going to be a lower owned guy, and that's just be more of a pivot play up top. It is a tough matchup. I can completely understand your mindset towards it. Pivot play.
I think that Dariush fight's exactly what I'm envisioning too. I don't know if RDA will get that knockdown like Beneil Dariush did, but it started out kind of 50-50. Gamrot got some takedowns, and then by the end of it, I thought Dariush was the better fighter. And then that brought something back up to me. Gamrot's been dropped like 4 or 5 times in his UFC career. Yeah, 4 times since he's joined the UFC, and that's a concern for me. Anytime you see a guy that consistently get dropped, it's only going to take one guy truly landing clean. And while RDA is not the most powerful striker, you just never know. And honestly, that cost him the Dariush fight. It almost cost him the Jalen Turner fight. I can see a similar scenario where Gamrot does kind of slow later and RDA steals this one.
That'll be an interesting one for sure. Big favorite, so it'll be a fun one. I am looking forward to that. Frank, this is the Frank I was telling you about. Not Frank Newman. There's 2 of them in the chat. Shout out both you guys. But if Tully here was breaking down every fight, his own thoughts on it, even after the fight. Appreciate you and your comments. He says RDA is going to drop to lightweight because he lost a million fights. The weight cut his age to be a bitch. I agree. It's a tough.
He is like 40 at this point too. So I mean,
Yeah.
RDA is up there in age, which is always a concern, as we saw with our last title fight there with Poirier and Volkanovski, right? Like we were really playing into the age storyline there, and it came true. So age is not friends to many people on this slate.
Oh, for sure. All right, let's get to the fight you've been waiting to talk about here. We have the 18-5 Caitlin Surmenara or Chookagian, whatever you prefer. Chookagian, sure. Versus the 13-2 Macy the Future Barber. All right.
Oh, God.
This is going to be a fun one. I typically am, I don't want to say a Chookagian hater. I'm just, if they gave out DraftKings points for grunting and going, like she would be a DraftKings gold. But instead of that, she is someone who is volume based, have never got a finish at the UFC, but has fought a very, very good level of competition. And this matchup is pretty simple to me. It is the potential new guard, the girl they wanted to promote, the girl they've gifted split decisions to and all this stuff.
Gifted is the right answer.
Yeah, it is. Versus a girl in Chookagian or Surmenara, whatever you want to call, who has, struggled a bit recently, but still is a phenomenal volume minute winner. And, wins because has also been gifted wins as well with her audibles and stuff like that. Frank asking if Caitlin is married. Yes, and she also had very sad story about how she's only fighting this week because she had a couple of miscarriages and she wants to get her mind off of it, which is, horrible. I wish her the best in her personal life and all that goes out. But you never want to hear someone saying that they're only fighting because it's a distraction. You want fighting to be their main thing. And I don't want to touch on that too much, but that is something to keep in mind. Truth be told, the way I see this fight going down is pretty simple. You have the potential volume striking of Caitlin being a problem. Macy Barber has never been the best volume threat. But when it comes to physicality, when it comes to a close fight like this, I do think Barber has more moment-winning upside. And more than ever, we've seen people win fights recently because of landing the more damaging shots and winning more moments. And I just think Macy Barber is going to win more moments. More so than not only does she have the more finish equity in the spot here, when it comes down to a greasy split decision, who are they giving this win to? Like, they have gifted split decisions to Macy Barber before. She is a fighter they're looking to market, and I do think she's someone headed for the top. And for that reason, they might have more success with, her name. And I do think she'll be winning those close decisions. I do think it's a very close fight. I don't think I'll be betting Macy Barber at chalk, but I do think she has more tools to get it done, and I do think she'll have the moments and the capability to win this fight. DraftKings wise, though, I'm not too inclined to play it. Barber's in between Saint-Denis and Michelle Pereira, Jack Della, Maddalena. Like, she has not historically always been the best DraftKings scorer. She gets a finish, she'll have potential, but I don't think she does here. For that reason, not the best play. Not getting towards the fight as a whole on DraftKings, although Chookagian may have some cash upside considering she just goes to decision all the time. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, you broke it down really well. I am not feeling good about Chookagian in this one. You touched on the miscarriage thing. Obviously, that's awful, but that is not the reason to get back in the MMA. Like, that's not the reason to get back into the cage. Macy Barber has so much potential, and we've seen it. Like the Alexa Grasso fight, I thought she could have been given that decision. I thought she looked really good in that fight, and that's our current world champion, right? Like, that's a really good showing. She has some great performances. I think for me, I do like her on DraftKings as a contrarian option. I know it's scary because Chookagian has the ability to kind of make this a low-scoring fight, and then also it's just women's MMA. But 3 of her 4 finishes have cleared over 100 points, and the other one scored 92.9. So when Barber is getting finishes, they're scoring really well. I do think this is a situation where she can get Chookagian to the ground. I do think she'll be able to secure takedowns. And then you think back, and obviously Valentina Shevchenko is very damn good, but she pounded her out, right? She beat her up and got her out of there. You look at her other fight against Jessica Andrade, it's kind of the same thing, right? Andrade landed a really good shot, got her down, and finished her. I think there's some durability concerns here for someone at 36 years old or whatever she is, who's coming off a layoff, who was basically retired and now coming back. Is your heart in it? Like, there's so much to this that does not scream reliable fighter. Kind of the same thing with Joanne Wood, where it's just like, man, I don't know if I trust her to stay in it for a full 15 minutes. And I do think Barber has finishing upside, and she's going to be extremely low owned. So I'm interested in that to be different. And honestly, maybe you're not paying up for Despaigne, and you're not paying up for Almabaev, and you're getting 3 or 4 in this range where you're getting finishes from BSD, and you're getting finished from Barber, and you're getting a finish from some of these 8.8, 8.9K fighters that could sneak in with lower ownership.
And that's the thing too. I was going to ask you, as a pivot contrarian play, as someone you're getting to at lower ownership, do you prefer Macy Barber or do you prefer Marina Moroz?
I prefer Barber. I feel like, because I think her floor is better too. Like, I think she has an easier path to like 85, 90 points, even in the decision. I think she's going to land more takedowns, have more control time. I think she's going to be able to do that. And I also think her ability to win by strikes is greater. I think her ability to land more strikes and then finish her by strikes is a little bit better. Might not be the case, but I do feel like Barber has the more win equity all around. So I kind of lean her way.
All right. I agree with the whole floor thing. I think the upside on Moroz might be a bit like, I see Moroz getting a finish more often, if that makes sense. So for that reason, I'm kind of inclined to play her. But I do think they're both great pivot plays. Let's move on, though. This next one is one I've been waiting to get to. One of my favorite fights in the entire card, because I just think it has so many implications. I think this is the fight you got to nail here on DraftKings this week. It's a 17-0 Curtis Blaydes, 20-2 Jailton Almeida. This fight's a pick'em, and it's the 2 middle guys in the slate. And honestly, I have a ton of things to say, so let me just get right to the breakdown here. You have a guy in Curtis Blaydes who had title aspirations. He wins that fight against Aspinall, and that fight against Pavlovich, and he's fighting for the belt. Like, the guy is at the top of the sport. He's the top of the heavyweight division. He has been the pinnacle, and he's facing the up and comer. He has been the guy who's been there for a while, and he's facing Jailton Almeida, who has just looked perfect in the UFC. He coming up to heavyweight, he's a lot lighter than everybody, but just what a physical specimen. Extremely dangerous, extremely explosive, very good ground game, and that's what he uses. He shoots a takedown in the first 10 seconds, he gets top position, and he usually gets people out of there. Phenomenal jiu-jitsu, great ground and pound. A lot of people are harping on his last win. Decision win over Derek Lewis, 5 rounds. Yeah, it wasn't the best thing to go out there and harp about. He didn't get that finish win, but what he got was cage time, and he showed he could just take down Derek Lewis at will and fight a full 25 minutes. Maybe not the best cardio in the world, but all that fun stuff. Either way, toughest test to date. There's no doubt about it. And what we have is 2 phenomenal wrestlers. I think the better wrestler is Curtis Blaydes, technically, and the better grappler is Jailton Almeida. So does it come down to a striking affair? There's a lot of questions to be asked. Simply put, though, we have a guy here in Jailton Almeida who is the better physical specimen, the better athlete, but he has been a better hammer than a nail. you can say the exact same thing about Curtis Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes was a deer in the headlights against Pavlovich. He did not want to engage. He was very scared. And that's not what we want to see. I think if he's tentative here, Jailton Almeida will run through the guy. We need to see the Curtis Blaydes of old, a guy who has confidence and will pose a threat to Jailton Almeida. The videos are going around. We haven't really seen Curtis Blaydes off his back. We haven't seen him defend takedowns. I want to see that. And I do think Jailton Almeida will be pressuring the takedown early. There are so many questions to be answered. I'm just leaning towards the younger fighter with the upward trajectory here in Almeida. And I think that he is the more dangerous fighter of the two. Curtis Blaydes, like I said, deer in the headlights against Pavlovich. I don't want to see him tentative like that. I want to see him able to go out there and aggressive, be able to contend, because I do think he's the better technical striker. And I do think if he has some early success, could finish this fight against Almeida. But early on, the better jiu-jitsu, the better pressure, and the guy who I think will be more confident in the first few minutes will be Jailton Almeida. And I got to side with him here, man. I'm very tempted to play his money line, but I think I might stay away from the money line and just have him on DraftKings. 8K, dude. Underdog Jailton Almeida, the guy who averages 119.5 points in wins, or in all of his fights combined. Like, is a phenomenal play on DraftKings. Both these guys are going to be very highly exposed to, especially the Almeida side of things. This fight should end early. It should be awesome. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I watched your show earlier, and everyone was on Almeida on your Pub Sports show there. And I was just sitting there. I'm like, I disagree. I think this is Curtis Blaydes' time, and I have two reasons for this. One, Jailton Almeida has been gifted a road to a perfect record in the UFC. He has fought guys with 0% takedown defense in Marquez. He's fought guys with 16% takedown defense. He's fought Rosenstrike and Derek Lewis, who can't defend a takedown if their life depended on it, right? Every single fighter he's been gifted is horrible at takedown defense. And that's allowed him to get them to the ground and just destroy them. He's been literally handpicked to look good against these guys. Curtis Blaydes is not that guy you're looking good against. Curtis Blaydes is a legit top 5 heavyweight contender who does have good wrestling, who does have strength, who also is one of the best boxers at heavyweight, regardless of what his chin's like. And I do think Blaydes has the advantage here in the striking department by a decent amount. I may be wrong, and it might not matter because his chin is that bad. But, I feel like Blaydes is going to be able to stifle anything that Almeida really wants to do in terms of taking it to the ground. Maybe Almeida gets it to the ground, but Blaydes is a legit test for Almeida, and the first one I really think he's faced since joining the UFC. Everything else has been tailor-made for him to dominate. So I'm very much not excited about his upside on this one. I think he's going to struggle to reach 100 points. And I think a lot of people are going to be chasing that box score that we see down there, 119.5. So I actually think we're going to see a high ownership on him, and that's going to be somewhere I want to go light on. And I think Blaydes is going to be able to win this fight as long as he just doesn't get chin checked. I think he's the better overall fighter. I think his striking – this is something of Curtis Blaydes I've loved for years. His striking is very, very good. He is a very technical boxer. He has a lot of sharp skills. But like you mentioned, his last fight, he was timid. He was scared. You can tell he didn't want to get knocked out, and he got knocked out. The chin's a problem. And I do think Almeida could land on him and knock him out. But, Blaydes is way bigger. He's going to be bigger, stronger. He's going to have a reach advantage a little bit. I think he's just going to be the better fighter in this one. I think Blaydes wins it. Fair
play. And you were harping on the 0% takedowns of Marquez and all that fun stuff. Fun fact of the day: Curtis Blaydes is a 33% takedown defense. Ooh, fun, interesting. And you know what? It's numbers. And I'm not going to harp on too much about that, but I agree that Blaydes striking is okay. When have we ever seen Almeida strike? He front kick up the middle and takedown. The question is, can Blaydes stifle it, and can Blaydes survive? Because we have seen Jailton Almeida give up in the past when he is the nail. And I do think that if Blaydes survives that first grappling exchange, gets back up and is able to strike with Almeida, then he can go out there and have success. But on face value, considering the timidness we see of Blaydes and considering the aggression we've seen from Almeida early, I'm siding with him. I do have fear of him being chalk as an underdog price tag this week, but I'll take my risk.
Blaydes is going to outweigh this dude by 30 pounds.
Yep. And that's what Frank was asking. Is Almeida big enough? So
yeah, I really don't think he is. I mean, I this is the biggest stand. When I was telling you in our chat, throughout the week, I was like, I have some stands. This is the one I think is going to make me look silly, but I feel so strongly about. I really think Blaydes takes this one.
Yep. Everyone's saying picking up a heavyweight, early Wayne podcast saying Almeida's aside as well. Rest go belly down for sure. All this fun stuff. Almeida is crazy strong. Now, Newman saying, could Almeida drop a weight class? He debuted as a light heavyweight. He went Dana White Contender Series as a light heavyweight, and he came up because he's like, yeah, I'll have more success wrestling people.
There's
like
no one that can defend
Parker
takedown
Porter.
heavyweight.
Yeah, Anton Turkali, Shamil Abdurakhimov.
Oh my god.
Yari Rosenstrike, Derek Lewis. Like he is a light heavyweight, but he's had a great path up here. Also want to point out IQ offense posts. I like that. All right. That is a pivotal one. That is one of the most important fights on DraftKings. This is the first time we disagreed all night, I think. We were both head-to-head on this one. It'll be a very interesting one. Don't know if we'll get to the betting window, but for sure there on DraftKings. Right, vitamins for sure. All right, at this point in time, I'm going to make sure everyone hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel. We're reaching the main card. We are a bit, past schedule. I'll timestamp it. We'll be okay. Also, while you're down there, I also linked all of Ryan's stuff after the show's done. Check out DailyFanRacing. Check out all the work he does. He has made me enough money, way more than enough money on NASCAR throughout the years, especially last week. And what'd you go, 5 for 6 on the bets you told me? Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
You did.
It was nice. It was a nice week.
Including the race winner. So shout out to you. Appreciate you and all your racing content and all the work you do UFC-wise as well. Let's get to this main card. We have ourselves the former champion, 16-5, Petr Yan versus future champion, 21-7, Song Yadong. You're saying no. Yadong says otherwise. It is a very, very fun matchup between two top of the weight class fighters, two guys who are maybe the pinnacle. And this just what shows how deep this weight class is. Both these guys are extremely talented. Petr Yan looked unstoppable before getting that illegal knee on Aljamain Sterling. He looked like he was on top of the world. He is an incredibly talented fighter, great boxer, but he's run into a close split decision against Aljamain Sterling. He ran into Moroz Dvalishvili, who just is Moroz. And now he's facing Song Yadong, a guy who I think is extremely talented, has been on top of the weight class as well, has a good round of skill set on the mat, on the feet, a ton of power, very explosive. But you know what? A guy who has not been at the top. We've seen him lose to Kyler Phillips, not Murray, Kyler Phillips. We've seen him fight close in all these spots here. We saw him lose to Sandhagen like that as well. I don't think Song Yadong's perfect. I think out of the two of them, he is the better power threat. I think Song Yadong is a guy who you can bank on to win minutes. But I think the better skilled fighter, the guy who's fought by a lot of competition, the guy who's ready to get back to the top is going to be Petr Yan. And I think people are putting too much stock into his losses. I'm saying all this, and I agree with Frank here. Yan always gets screwed over for sure. Here's my worry. And I don't know what side you're on. We have not talked about this, I don't think. I think maybe we have. Oh, yeah, we have. Yeah, I do know. Yeah. Here's my worry. I love Petr Yan in 5-round fights because he takes round 1 off. And that's my worries. He takes round 1, he downloads, and he goes out there and gets information. And you know what? That works great when you're going this 5-round fights. He was able to completely dismantle people later on in fights. But if you're dropping round 1 in a 3-round fight, it's close. So you need to go out there and have a ton of success early. And I'm hoping he's able to adapt his game plan to that. He lost against Sugar Sean O'Malley in a very, very controversial decision. Was that because he started too slow? Maybe not in that matchup, but still, I would prefer this if it was a 5-round matchup for Yan, where he's able to make his reads as the fight goes on. Because of his tentativeness early on and his ability to download information, it's scary to back him here because if Song Yadong goes up 1 round, it makes it very dicey. All this to say, though, it is a very fun fight. I'm picking Petr Yan for the comeback. I'm thinking he's going back up to the top here. However, a very fun fight. I would not be surprised seeing it go to split or either way. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so I am picking Petr Yan as well. I know this will make Brett extremely happy, his favorite fighter ever. But, for me, this is a recency bias thing, like Frank V said in there. It's a fight where you get destroyed by Moroz, but Moroz's Moroz. You have to throw that out. Petr Yan won the O'Malley fight. He gave up that final round, but he won the first 2, in my opinion. Overall throughout his career, he is one of the absolute best strikers in the UFC. I think he'll even have a slight wrestling advantage here. I think he's the better wrestling practitioner here than Song Yadong. That might just be a personal preference. I could be proved wrong. That's a 50-50 thing, honestly. But I do think he's the more likely to land takedowns. I think we've seen with Song in the past in his fight against Marlon Vera, or that type of fight where he gives up a couple takedowns to maybe lose rounds. I think that's in play for Petr Yan, where Petr Yan's the type of guy that will throw in a couple takedowns to win rounds, like we saw against O'Malley and things like that. I think Jan's the more technical striker. I think he'll be able to avoid some of Song's more powerful shots and then land more on the counter, land a 2-for-1 type deal on the counter and kind of outstrike him from distance. I think he's just kind of better everywhere. And, for me, for this to be a pick 'em, I think is a recency bias thing. I think it should be more of a bigger favorite in this spot. But Song Yadong's coming off a good win against like Chris Gutierrez, and that's a solid win. But this is the pinnacle of this division. So I think Jan wins this one. I think he comes in. I think he puts a stamp on it, and I think he actually has some finishing equity. Believe it or not, I think he's gonna look really damn good in this one.
See, here's my thing: is I agree with that. I'm picking Jan to win. I can't get to it on DraftKings that often, and I'm surprised. I thought I would. I thought it'd be a high pace fight, but I can't trust either of them to grapple proactively, and it is still one that is expected to go the distance. When we've seen Petr Yan go the distance in 3-round fights, he scored 79 against Vera, 79 against Dodson. If he's not getting a finish, it's not optimal, and both of these guys are extremely durable. So I am willing to be underweight to this one. What about you?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, I think Jan has finishing equity here, but I don't. Yeah, I'm not going to get there very often. I think the two fights surrounding it too, with Cutelaba and then the heavyweight fight we just talked about, those guys have so much better upsides because the KOs there early and the upside with those guys are a lot better. So this can be like a pivot off of those two fights, but I won't get here very often either.
Okay, glad we're aside on that one. Let's move on to the next one. We have, this is fun, man. 16-2, Jack Della, Maddalena, 22-6, Gilbert Dorino Burns. I'm skipping right to the chase here, man. If Gilbert Burns is in the right mindset, if he is in the right point of his career, he shouldn't be this big of an underdog, man. Like Jack Della Maddalena, although a phenomenal
bias again.
It is recency bias. And although Jack Della Maddalena is in better career trajectory, he's a guy who has looked phenomenal, incredible striker. He's so fun to watch. We've seen him put in arm triangles by Anj Lusa and Belil Hasfez. And it's like, there are still things to be learned about Jack Della Maddalena. I picked Jack Holland against him, and I don't think that Gilbert Burns is going to beat him on the feet, but this is the same Gilbert Burns who went toe-to-toe with Khamzat Chimaev, who fought for the belt and who was at the top of the division. And although he was dropped in a tough performance against Bilal Muhammad, I don't think it justifies him being this big of an underdog. This fight going to the mat, I think Gilbert Burns is able to destroy him down there. I do think that's his world. The question just then becomes, at 37 years of age, is his mind in the right place? Would he be rather doing podcasts right now? Is he not training accordingly for this? Because on the feet, I have no doubt about it that Jack Della Maddalena is the crisper, better striker of the two. It's just, is he that much better on the feet to make him like this big of a favorite? Because I do think that the discrepancy on the ground is larger than the discrepancy on the feet. And for that reason, it's an interesting one. Gun to my head, considering career trajectories, I still think I might pick Gilbert Burns. I maybe think I picked Jack Della Maddalena in my breakdown, but DraftKings wise, I'm on Gilbert Burns. It's like, yes, we've seen Gilbert Burns finish before, but I do think he has just as much finish equity on the mat. I think that he has takedown upside, submission upside, and yes, Jack Della Maddalena is exploding out of them, but he's being put there in the first place, and everyone's going like, wow, he survived those spots. Yeah, we're surprised he survived because he was so deep in them. Like, you put an 80cc world champ like Gilbert Burns in there, and he's finishing those chokes. So I think this could be a levels thing. It is one of these fights we're going to look back and we're going to be like, wow, Jack Della Maddalena was only minus 125, minus 130 against a washed up Gilbert Burns doesn't want to be in there anymore. Or it's like, oh my God, Gilbert Burns was an underdog to a guy who was put in an arm triangle by Anj Lusa. So, like, we're going to look back and see it either way. DraftKings wise, I'm a huge fan of Gilbert Burns. In his finish wins, he's gone out there and scored 105. That's the only one I can see on this record here, but still, 105, 102. Very good on the ground, 7.6K. I do like Gilbert Burns to finish upside. He's an underdog I'm looking to target. What about you?
Yeah, I'm all in on Gilbert Burns this card.
Are you?
Okay. This is another spot that I feel like is just weird to me. Like, I feel like Gilbert Burns should be like minus 180 as a favorite in the spot. I get it. Yeah, the age thing against creeping up here. This is another one of those like, hey, gatekeeper guy holding off the top 5 spot from the new up and coming fighter. But this is a guy that showed Jack Della Maddalena, who's shown extreme, inability on the ground, and Gilbert Burns puts you away when you do that, and that's a big thing for me. I kind of look at this like when we watched, and this is probably a horrible analogy, but Glover Teixeira when he fought Anthony Smith, and Anthony Smith for the first round was like, "Wow, look, I'm landing everything on you," and then eventually got to the ground, and Teixeira just beat the shit out of him. I think Gilbert Burns gets this to the ground and beats the shit out of him at some point. I have not liked what I've seen from JDM on the ground, and that's a huge red flag for me. And so anytime I see a guy that has that big of upside, wrestling wise and grappling wise, that can finish a fight on the ground, I'm always going to be on that fighter. Always. It's just the way I play. It's the way I like. And at 7.6K, it's phenomenal from a pricing perspective. I'm going to be on him everywhere. Cash, tournaments, you name it, extremely, extremely heavy on him. But he could just one out. This could be one of those late fights in the career where he gets hit a couple times and JDM puts him out. I do think that's a possibility. I do think JDM has DraftKings viability as well. I do think he has KO viability. I think he has the equity to win early in this fight. So I don't think we need to rule him out as a play. I don't think it's a given that Burns wins this. I think it's a good test for Maddalena. I just think he loses it. I don't think he passes this test. And anytime you end up having to face a bunch of strikers, like JDM could arguably be on like a 3-fight losing streak right now. He hasn't looked great. I thought Kevin Holland potentially won that fight. I think I might have leaned that way. I'm not super impressed. And then it's a grappler versus striker dynamic, and I always lean grappler when they're that good as Burns is.
Fair, man. And if his fight versus Bilal doesn't happen, I bet you he's a favorite for sure, man. It's just people are seeing that shoulder, people are seeing that age, and it's a concern. And I understand the concern, but I still think I'm on the Burns side here. And we agree once again on underdog, very alive dog here in Burns.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to the big three, man. Like especially this next one. This is one I want to talk about for sure. We have the debut of Michael Venom Page, 21-2 from Bellator versus the 25-10 big mouth trailblazer Kevin Holland. And what is a very, very fun one, and one where I do have a decent stance on it. You know what? I love Kevin Holland. I backed him plenty before, and there are a ton of holes in his game. I completely understand. His IQ, extremely subpar. His defensive wrestling, extremely subpar. But what he is an entertaining fighter who is extremely durable, extremely talented, with good range, volume, cardio, power, and opportunistic finishing. Michael Venom Page is a signing I'm very happy they made. Finally, now he's almost 37. Again, the age thing's there for sure, but a guy who is an extremely powerful striker. We'll never forget the video of him kneeing a guy, breaking his skull, and then throwing a Pokeball at him. Anyways, we'll get to that later. But still, a guy who's extremely entertaining, extremely powerful. But I think is also a guy who is, maybe I would have liked to see this fight earlier. I think when it comes down to lining this fight, I've seen a ton of people pick Kevin Holland, and although I feel kind of square doing it as well, I'm on the Kevin Holland side, and I don't understand why this line is as close as it is. Michael Venom Page has one-shot knockout power. He is very technically sound. I completely see that. But aside from that one-shot power, I'm giving a lot of these metrics to Holland. I think the better durability is on the Holland side. The better cardio is on the Holland side. The better volume, potential ground game, even though I'm not assuming he goes there. Better range as well with the reach and the range of the strikes is going to be Kevin Holland. He's my pick in this matchup. I do like him a lot here. He's a fighter who I think is extremely explosive, extremely dangerous. And although Michael Venom Page has round 1 KO upside, he slows as the fight goes on. He has very limited volume, and I think has the worst chin of the two. So I'm on Kevin Holland at even. So I got him at minus 120. He's now minus 130. Same thing. I'm okay with that line. I do not care. I'm a big fan of him. Here's the issue: is this could be a 15-minute striking affair, a 15-minute war. And on DraftKings, does that always score that well? It doesn't. Kevin Holland put up 50 against Jack Della Maddalena in their stand-up war. Jack Della Maddalena only put up 72. Venom Page isn't always the best volume striker, doesn't always the best DraftKings score, and for that reason, he could fizzle out and not score that was underdog, but he has KO upside. Still, I'm not getting towards Michael Venom Page. If I'm playing Kevin Holland, I'm hoping for potential finish upside. To me, there are just better fights in this card. I'd much rather have an Cutelaba over Lins or a Almeida or Blaydes in this spot here. Heavy on Holland, probably stupid considering his fight IQ, but I do think he has advantages here.
Yeah, I agree. I think, this is a fight kind of like you touched on. I'm not super excited for from DraftKings perspective, but I do think Holland minus 130 is definitely a really good spot. Another fight that I think is way too close. So I do agree with that. I don't really know how Page wins this without KOing him. Where does he beat him other than, getting that highlight KO? So for me, I don't think Page is anything but a KO or bust guy. Maybe that comes in the first round, and maybe that's why you like him on DraftKings. But Holland's, very durable, like you mentioned. He's got a really good game. While his fight IQ may feel dumb, I don't think he has bad fight IQ. I think he just decides he's not going to do the smart thing, which is a difference. Like, some people just don't know. They're oblivious. They're blind to what they should be doing. Holland knows. He's just like, whatever. I don't care. I'm going to make this entertaining. That could get him caught. That's the one caveat that I'll say is he could be like, oh, I'm going to make this exciting because it's me and MVP, and this is my opportunity to look like, Poirier versus Gaethje, where we're going to have this show-stealing fight, and that gets him clipped. My dream here is that Kevin Holland takes him down. Because Kevin Holland, if Kevin Holland wanted to wrestle in this fight, he would get him down anytime he wanted. He would submit his ass quickly. Two completely different fighters on the ground. The problem is I don't think Kevin Holland will do it. And it's kind of that same thing where you look at, Justin Gaethje's like, no, I'm just going to stand and bang. Michael Chandler's like, sometimes, yes, I'll wrestle. No, Kevin Holland, this one time for me in your life, take him down, beat him up, finish him, submit him, and get out of there. Because this is a type of performance where he can go out and submit this guy within a round, stake his claim for like, hey, I'm legit here, and make a real show. I don't think him standing and trading with MVP really makes him look that good. So, yeah, Holland doesn't prioritize winning. I kind of agree with that. But it's a tough one for me. I think Holland's better everywhere, though, and I do think he wins the volume. I think he wins because I think he's the better MMA striker, if that makes sense. Like, I think he lands more and can do more at distance. The only thing for Page is the KO upside. But, man, if I knew Holland would wrestle and would actually take this seriously, I'd play him all day on DraftKings because I think he has so much first-round equity as a wrestling/submission guy in this fight, but it's so untrustworthy that I'm afraid to do it.
Well, here's the thing: is yes, he took down Wonderboy, let him get back up. I bet the over in that fight. I picked Wonderboy. That was a spot where he went on the podcast and said, "We have a gentleman's agreement. We're not grappling." Conjecture, but there's no agreement. He still could. That fight is not one I'm putting too much stock into. Now they're making commercials together. Now they're friends. That was just a spot where, he's done.
Yeah,
and you know what?
That particular one probably more so than like something he's going to do in every fight. But
yeah,
God, dude, like I don't know. It's tricky. I definitely think he has a huge, submission upside, or not upside. It's not the right word. Advantage. I just wish he'd take advantage of it. I wish he'd fight smart for once.
And this is what I'm saying. Yes, Holland doesn't prioritize winning. He prioritizes entertainment, and I see all that kind of stuff. The difference we have here is we're not playing him at minus 250 here. It's minus 120. It's minus 130. I still think he has all the advantages here: the age, the range, the volume, the durability.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, big two, co-main event time, 5-rounder, 13-1 Benoit Saint-Denis, Frenchman. Oui, on peut y faire. On est vive la France, right? 29-8. Dustin Poirier. You got any French for me?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, you can stick in the Dustin Poirier side of things. All right.
Isn't he Cajun? Like, he's from the French quarter of New Orleans, isn't he? Like, isn't that his whole deal? Is that he's actually like, so my ancestry is Cajun and my ancestry is French Cajun from the New Orleans area. I'm assuming Poirier is the same way. Look at his last name.
Where's your French? Come on.
Yeah.
On peut parler en français le reste. Like, we can
like
do
most French people, it goes both ways.
Okay. I know you go both ways, but that's not the point. Next up here, we have a guy here who is the top of the world. Dustin Poirier has beaten my favorite fighter in the world, Max Holloway, multiple times. He's beaten Conor McGregor. Like, he's a guy who is one of the most common household names, a very popular fighter, a very talented one, versus this rising prospect, and Benoit Saint-Denis, who has taken the world by storm. One of the most entertaining fighters we have ever seen. A former special forces on the France army there. Like, the guy is a freak of nature. But like, these are fun it's like this is a fun matchup, and I'm struggling to put my words together because this fight just has so much excitement from me. You have the grizzled vet here in Dustin Poirier, a guy who is favored against Gaethje, a guy who's been at the top of the world, a guy who's fought for the belt before, as a massive underdog against a newcomer almost. Like he feels like he's a newcomer the way he's been here, but a guy who's been, you know what, should have been out in the feet against Leslie dos Santos, a guy who was a huge underdog to Bonfim. Like this seems like a massive overcorrection of the line. But then you watch the skill set, you watch the way Poirier is losing, you watch the way Benoit Saint-Denis is dominating. And although I've always been a Poirier fan, it's hard for me not to pick and cheer for Benoit Saint-Denis. I mean, this guy's style is fun. This guy's style is electric the way he goes in there. He wants to melt you. He wants to break you. He has more will than anybody. The guy's fun to watch. The question is he ready for this step up in competition? Because yes, he's a phenomenal grappler. Yes, he's a phenomenal power threat. He's got great cardio, but does he have the striking, the, let's say, ability to grapple against such a big fighter and a big name like Dustin Poirier? And I'm interested to see how that plays out. To me, this is not a fight I'm looking to bet. I don't want to play Benoit Saint-Denis at this juice. I would rather just sit back as a fan. But on DraftKings, you need this matchup, in my opinion. You almost do. This fight's 5 rounds. The pace that Benoit Saint-Denis is almost like Moroz level. The guy is having able to score so many points. He averages 109 points in DraftKings wins, including scoring 150 against Moises, 135 against Miranda. The guy is a phenomenal DraftKings scorer and a guy who is just super entertaining to watch. I think he'll have takedown upside early on. I think he'll have the opportunity to go out there and threaten finisher the same way Chandler did. And he has one of the highest ceilings on the slate. The question is, can that materialize to a finish against such a durable and tough fighter like Poirier? And that's where I'm questioning. I think Poirier also has finish upside. I think he has later finish upside, which I'm acknowledging, but still, I prefer Benoit Saint-Denis on this side of things. I think if Benoit Saint-Denis loses, it comes later. And for that reason, I think he's a pretty solid floor. I think he's a pretty reliable option. And like MMA Line Mover said, what's up, dude? He can definitely stack up some DFS points. That's for sure. Interesting matchup. Excited to hear your take.
I love this matchup. Like this is matchmaking 101 here. Again, another top guy trying to keep a spot at the top with the young up and comer coming in. BSD is so much fun to watch, but I do have questions. You put a lot of praise on him. You covered it really well, so I'm just going to kind of cover the other side. He's been taking like that last fight where he gets a head kick KO. He did not look good for the first every second before the head kick. He looked kind of rough there. He's looked rough at times. He just has such a huge output that kind of like an Ian Cutelaba deal where it's like his output's so damn good that if he hits, it's going to be a massive score, which is why we're going to love him from DraftKings. But I do question the level of competition. I do question his ability in a 5-round fight. And that's something we'll get to in a bit. I think Dustin's really going to have an advantage in over 5 rounds. I think he's going to have the cardio. I think he's going to have a lot of advantages there. My concern is Dustin Poirier has bad takedown defense. Like it's just not very good. Michael Chandler, if he wanted to take him down more often, he probably could have. He still scored 3 takedowns. Charles Oliveira had nearly 6 minutes of control time in their fight, in a relatively short fight there. Obviously, Habib's Habib, but he destroyed him on the mat. I'm a little concerned about Poirier's ability to stop the takedowns, especially early. I think BSD is going to have a lot of success. I don't know if he can submit Poirier. Charles Oliveira getting a submission is a lot different than anyone else getting a submission. So I think Poirier can hang in there, and I do actually pick him to win this fight late.
Okay.
But I think Benoit Saint-Denis is going to look damn good early. And if he does get a finish, or if his cardio does hold up, which I don't think it will, but if it does, he has the ability to put up a huge score in a decision, in a submission win, in a KO. He has the ability to do this no matter how, he's going to put up a big score if he wins. So I love that play on DraftKings. I love Dustin Poirier on DraftKings, but he's 7.3K. I think he has finishing upside, KO upside. He's cheap. He's going to be able to round things out. Obviously, there is that age situation here, and again, you can always there you go. The age thing, when these guys get up to 36, 35, 37 years old and they just got KO'd, do they get KO'd again? Volkanovski just showed that it's a good opportunity for an aged fighter to get KO'd the second time back to back. There's a lot to like with BSD. I definitely think he will put up a huge score even in a loss. I think he's a cash must personally. I think you have to have him because I think he'll be owned by more than half the field. And if he hits, and you don't have him, you're killed in cash. But I think Poirier gets it late.
Interesting. I know it'll be a fun one. I think this is one of the most I'm almost more excited for this one than I am the main event, and that's saying something. Like this
Definitely.
fight,
this is great.
It's incredible. Like especially considering the way we've seen Saint-Denis' career trajectory be close to evens against Stolze, close to evens against Miranda, and steamrolling them, and now being where he is against Dustin Poirier. So takedown defense is scary for.
I forgot
Poirier.
to mention Dan Hooker took Poirier down 4 times of all people. Yeah. So I don't trust Dustin Poirier's takedown defense. I think he ends up on his back a couple times here early for sure.
And if Benoit Saint-Denis steamrolls him round 1, how heartbroken are we for the legend of Dustin Poirier?
Not at all. He made enough money.
He did.
He had a phenomenal career. It would suck. Obviously, it's not how you want these guys to go out. I hope that kind of is it. I hope he's not well, I'm going to hang around or anything like that. He's been through some wars. If he gets steamrolled, hopefully that's it for him. I don't need to see him get beat up a bunch.
Fair play, man. That's going to be a fun one. I know it is a pivotal one for DraftKings. Hopefully we cover that one enough. But on to this main event. All right, here. 17-1 Sean O'Malley, 23-8 Marlon Vera. They fought before. I mean, one of these guys won. He must be the favorite. No, he's not. Sean O'Malley, dare I say, the biggest star in the sport right now?
Right? No. God, no. Oh, God.
He is the
They want him to be. Name. They booked this card to make him look that way. They gave us the best damn card of the year so he can look like a star. Sean O'Malley's not as big as everyone plays him out to be.
I don't know, man. You hang around. You go to my microbiology exam tomorrow, and you go, hey, there's a UFC fight this weekend. And they go, who's fighting? And you go, Sean O'Malley. And they go, oh, my God, really? He's the one name everybody knows. He is a very popular option.
I want to fly out to St. Louis just to do this, man.
I don't think you can take my exam for me at this point.
I'd fail really hard.
I know you would. But he is a massive star. Maybe
yes, he's definitely one of the bigger stars in the MMA space right now. I think it's overstated a little bit, but this is a huge spot for him. This is the spot. They have booked this to make him look like a damn star. They gave him a guy he should beat, right? And they set this up for him to look like the second coming of Conor McGregor, honestly. I mean, that's how they've built this.
Fair play. And breaking this fight down is pretty simple. It's one of these spots where Marlon Chito Vera has never been a good minute winner. He's a moment winner. And that's why I bet Dominic Cruz against him. That's why I bet Sandhagen against him. I have picked against Chito Vera a few times. And sometimes I lose those bets. Okay, but he is a primary moment winner. He's a phenomenal jab, a ton of power. He makes good reads as the fight goes on, but he can be hit very often. That's fine because he's extremely durable, but it doesn't help him win minutes. He can also be taken down very easily. To me, he's a guy who is a forward pressure, tough boxer who will look to make reads and break as the fight goes on. The most glaring red flag I have in this fight for Chito Vera, and we'll get to the Sean O'Malley side of things, is that Rob Font fight, a spot where he was able to go out there and
exactly.
He got out volumed crazy. He got outboxed. He lost the round on the feet, but then he won it based off of a dropping his opponent in the last 20 seconds.
It was a damage thing, right?
What happens when he doesn't get those knockdowns? Is he still able to win those minutes? That is what's concerning to me here. Sean O'Malley needs no introduction. Phenomenal counter striker, great aura around him, is winning these split decisions. A guy who is very popular, but we're also going to have a lot of questions answered about him. We still don't have his ground game fully answered. We still don't have his durability fully answered. We still don't have his cardio fully answered, but I still think he checks all those boxes here. To me, what I see happening is I see a very competitive 25-minute affair. I think more finish equity, honestly, lies with Chito Vera because of how tough he is and how the one time we saw O'Malley lose, he was kind of fragile, right? But still, the more technical striker of the two, Sean O'Malley, better defensively by a mile is Sean O'Malley. The guy with better range here is also Sean O'Malley. And a guy who's going to win on the judges' scorecard, shall I go there, is Sean O'Malley. Just ask Petr Yan. So to me, fun matchup, one where I think it's probably one decision a lot of the time. We're going to have questions answered about the durability of Sean O'Malley, about the cardio of Sean O'Malley. I think it's a done. I think it's a bit closer than the line entails due to the fact that Chito Vera is going to be there for 25 minutes and he's probably going to walk forward makes him a live underdog. So for that reason, I'm still picking Sean, but a very interesting one. DraftKings wise, though, you could go after this fight anyway. Sean O'Malley could land 150 strikes. He could land 200. No one would be surprised. He's a phenomenal DraftKings play. Always has been. Great volume. Great counter striker. Chito Vera, also a ton of volume. In these, like he scored, like in that Font fight I mentioned, he scored 130, 94 against Edgar, 95 against Cruz. Very good play at 7K as well. You could stack this one if you see it going all 5 rounds. It is an incredible fight. I've talked enough. I kind of want to hear your thoughts on it. How do you see this fight going down?
Yeah, I had to go back and re-look over some things just to make sure I didn't speak out of turn here. But Marlon Vera's never been finished. And as far as I can tell, he's never been dropped.
Yep.
So
Max Holloway-ish, you know?
Yeah, like there's so much durability here, and that's what keeps him in fights. The Rob Font fight is exactly what I envision this being, where I think O'Malley lands more strikes. I think he can put up north of 200 strikes landed in this fight. So I do like O'Malley's side a lot on DraftKings. But Vera, if he landed 120, 130 strikes and a loss, even, he could be a good DraftKings play if no one went down, at the bottom end. I think there's a lot of viable dogs where I'm not necessarily trying to play Vera as a loser. But I think this is going to be one of those fights where it goes 25 minutes and they're trading back and forth the entire time. Vera definitely has the more finish equity than O'Malley. I also think Vera has the more wrestling equity. I think he's a guy that if he wants to try to take it down, he can. I was very impressed with O'Malley's takedown defense against Sterling. I thought he did a very good job early in that fight. But as we've seen with Aljo, sometimes he just – I don't know. Aljo just spams stuff sometimes, doesn't, actually enter takedowns very well. And that's what allows him to get his takedowns defended pretty easily. I think Vera's shown, like the Song Yadong fight, I thought Vera won. I thought he won because he implemented wrestling properly. He mixed in everything well. He looked like a really well-rounded fighter. I think that type of performance is in the cards for him, and I do think he has a potential to win this fight, but he has to mix in the wrestling. If this is a 5-round striking fight, he's going to get outpointed. He's going to, it's going to look like Sandhagen did. It's going to look like Font did. He's just going to get landed on too much. And unless he clips O'Malley like he did Font, he's going to lose. He's going to lose all 5 rounds, and that's the story, right? But I think it's a really good fight. I think it's intriguing. I think relatively close on the feet, but I do think O'Malley wins pointing it away, But I'd like to see Vera wrestle some here because I do think he can secure takedowns. And I think it add a dynamic to this fight where, we can look after 4 rounds and be like, man, this is 2 rounds apiece because Vera landed a couple takedowns and some ground and pound or something, So I think it's a fun fight. I lean O'Malley here for sure. I think O'Malley puts up a huge number if it does stay on the feet. But both are viable. I think a stack is viable in cash as well with these guys. If you're a cash player, I think I'm stacking these guys. So, really good fight overall, though.
Yeah. Final thing I'll say about it is there's a reason they gave him the rematch with Chito Vera and not Moroz Babalashvili. They want to keep the star up top. And I think it's meant for a fun one. I mean, we've seen bigger upsets before, but I think it's gonna be a great fight. One where I am picking Sean O'Malley to get it done. Should be a fun one.
Dude,
one of the numbers you're talking about is
Moroz going to destroy whoever wins this one. Oh my God, it's gonna be amazing
for sure. So interesting. What a card, man! An hour 28. We're through it all.
You said this show's only 45 minutes long. It's gonna be quick. Here we are.
Yeah, when I do it on my own, it is. But, we got double the fun here. We're not done, though. What we have next is another video. I'm actually mixing 2 videos in here. I usually go over my best bets video. Brought to you by COOLBET. Use code Gordo. 100% deposit match up $200. Going over best bets. Favorite bets on the card. I put together the worst editing skills you're ever going to see. No one judged me on this one. I forgot that we had our faces in here, so I had to move the words to the side. We'll get there. But here's Larkin's best bet. I'm going to leave the floor to you. The first one you told me was, there you go. Look at that editing skill. Come on.
Nice. Looks good. I think it looks good. Yeah, so I was kind of disappointed that we weren't going to get a better number on Jan by decision because I do think this goes to the decision. But I think he's just kind of the better fighter all around. I think he has a better striking. I think it shouldn't be this close. It's kind of basically a pick 'em. I thought minus 180 range was more where Jan should be in this matchup. But recency bias obviously pulls the number down. I think it's good value. If you want to go by decision, I think it's like plus 135. But I mean, the money line kind of covers you in case he does get that KO or something, right? So I think minus 119 is a good number.
All right. And next up, we'll do a long shot as well because we're degenerates. We're going to have some fun here. I will say no specific round and method line was out on CoolBet at the time of editing this. However, there was round props. So you can walk us through this next one right here.
Yeah. So I found Dustin Poirier by KO round 4 at plus 2,400. CoolBet obviously didn't have it up yet when you're going through it, but I mentioned earlier, I think there's a good chance that BSD kind of fades in this fight. I think it's a situation where Dustin can start picking him apart on the feet rounds 3, and then eventually round 4 put this guy away. That's how I'm envisioning this, the win path for Dustin Poirier against Saint-Denis. And I think it happens in this fight. I'm picking Poirier by KO, and I pick in round 4. Just once this fight starts to get into deep waters, once Dustin, starts to land on him, once he stuffs that takedown and they get back up and Dustin hits that 1-2 on him and cracks him, you're going to see the fight change, right? And we see this a lot with young up-and-comers. We saw it with Joe Pyfer. It was like, man, first 2 rounds, he looked amazing still, and then he faded, and then he lost. I think Dustin Poirier's been to deep waters. I think he's going to be able to, get through the first couple rounds. Then he's going to crack him, and then he's going to start, landing shots repeatedly until he puts him away late.
Okay, I like that. Me, for my best bet, one way to describe it: scared money don't make money. Holland money line minus 130 here on CoolBet. To me, it's I completely understand. It's hard to trust him at this point of his career. He's made a lot of mistakes, but when I'm going out here to researching the 2 fights, I just see way too many advantages in the Kevin Holland side of things that I had to go out here and take him. I do think he has more volume. I think he has more minute winning equity. And if he survives a power shot, he wins this fight at a pretty high clip. It's not like I'm paying minus 200. I'm getting this fight close to pick him, and I do think that it's good enough odds to trust this guy to go out there and have a win. I do like this spot here. I do think he has the tools, man. It's his fight to lose. Let's see how it goes. Long shot wise, these ones are ugly. I'm not going to lie. 2 of them. Number 1, Moroz under. I do think she's able to go out there and get a sub. We're getting plus 270 for the under 2.5 rounds. I do think that happens more often than the line entails. Just having a potential finish over there, a retiring fighter. I don't mind that.
Absolutely. I love that.
And the next one, I did bet Pedro Munoz money line at plus 200. Hear me out. Round 2, late round 2, round 3, guillotine. Pedro Munoz plus 1,300. All right. I know we haven't seen it recently. He's a phenomenal striker, but he has a incredible guillotine. He has very strong arms like that. And Kyler Phillips, not Murray, Kyler Phillips gets sloppy the later the fight goes. He is still a primary wrestler sometimes when he gets tired. And with that cardio fading, plus 1,300 is a very generous number. Long shots, like, come on, we're having some fun here. But still, 2 lines, I think there's good plus money to do. But with that, we are... That's all we got for the PowerPoint presentation. I feel like I'm back grade school. What we do here on the Plays and Fade YouTube channel, we do our full card picks and predictions. So I'm going to go through. I'm just going to say my winner. You can if you want. No pressure if you don't want to. Yep.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I'll go through mine here. Shout out to Brian, XBL Twitch on Twitter, for tracking this all. But I'm going to take Sean O'Malley decision in the main event. Let's go Benoit Saint-Denis. We'll take him here. Round 2 sub. Kevin Holland decision. Gilbert Burns sub 2. Piotr Jan decision. Gilton Almeida KO 1. Macy Barber decision. Mateus Gamrot decision. Pedro Munoz. Let's say it. Let's say sub 3 for the culture. Truthfully, it's decision, but let's have some fun. Michelle Pereira decision. Ian Cutelaba round 1 KO. Robelis Despaigne round 1 KO. Almabaev decision, and Marina Moroz sub 2. You got those ready for me, or you want a little bit more time? What do you got for me?
Let's run do it. No. Sean O'Malley decision, definitely. Poirier round 4 KO. So I just said Kevin Holland decision, Gilbert Burns submission round 2, Peter Yan decision, Curtis Blaydes decision, Macy Barber KO round 2, TKO, called TKO. Gamrot decision, Pedro Munoz decision, Ian Cutelaba round 1 TKO finish, Pereira decision, Despaigne KO, Almabaev round 2 late round 2 submission, and then Moroz round 2 submission.
All right, I like that. And then I also do my my rainmakers here as well. I just give out the fighters with the highest ceiling. I didn't warn you about this straight up. I'm sorry, I did not warn you about this. But fighters I think with the highest ceilings this week. I think Despaigne quick win bonus. I think that Benoit Saint-Denis has an incredible high ceiling on the slate. Almabaev, the winner of the Blaydes Almeida one, and then Ian Cutelaba. Those are my top 5 highest ceiling. You get out any if you want, but I'm not
I
sure
have
if
no
you
clue
know.
about Rainmakers, man.
That's
They gave
okay.
me a free PGA pack though. I entered that, but I have no clue about that stuff, so I'm good.
And then last but not least, the bets, which you already covered with best bets. So that's going to do it. Other bets I've locked, the only 2 bets I've locked in right now are Pedro Munoz money line and Kevin Holland money line. I'll look towards getting maybe some unders on the Moroz Wood fight, which is ugly to talk about. Might get to the window on Almeida if we get towards plus money again. And we'll see how it goes. If you want to check out all my full betting card, check me out on Twitter at GamblesGordo. Check me out there, as well as brand new premium content. Establish the Run with Brett Apley, the new MMA section. I'll be doing a podcast there tomorrow. That should be all good. But rude of me to do this before I let my guests have the floor. I appreciate you joining me, Larkin. Tell me where they can find you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. You know, I love talking UFC, and I do it, 2 or 3 times a year. So really excited to get to do it with you. I think it's gonna be a fun card. I bought the pay-per-view early. I never do that.
Ah.
Like I'm excited for this one. Follow me on Twitter at Larkin8. I'm really only doing this for Twitter followers, so please follow me. And Daily Fan Racing is where all my content is. I cover all racing content pretty all by myself, but NASCAR, F1, we have a very good track record. Check us out if you're into that. If you want to try a new sport, let me know. I can teach you the way. Gordo's done some shows with me in the past. He bowed out because life's getting too busy, but racing's my go-to. MMA is my side gig, but excited for this card. And thanks again for having me.
Did you say track record on purpose, or was that a racing joke?
Oh, definitely on purpose.
Oh, perfect. Well, no, I appreciate you joining me. Truth be told, hectic week, extremely busy past couple of weeks. So I appreciate Ryan for joining me because I didn't have to edit a video. We're able to do this live, and I had a ton of fun talking this card. One of my favorite cards in a long time. Looking forward to it. Next week, there will be no video on the Plays of It YouTube channel. Taking the week off, kicking my feet up. We're going to look past it. I will still put out a quick breakdown of set of bets on Friday. So again, make sure to check me out on Twitter at GamblesGordo. And with that, guys, hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, show some love. Appreciate you guys checking it out. Feel free to comment down below if you have any questions or concerns. Wish you guys all the best of luck in all your DraftKings and betting endeavors. And let's make some money, guys. Appreciate you guys all tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.
Peace.